Hello, in this video today I'm going to compare the Indiana Jones franchise to the John Wick franchise. First of all, when we look at the highest Rotten Tomatoes score for each franchise, with Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark has the highest score of 93%. When you look at John Wick Chapter 4 has the highest score, 94%, so John Wick wins this round. Next, let's look at the lowest score for each franchise. When it comes to Indiana Jones, the lowest score is only a 70% for Dial of Destiny. I mean, that's a good sign for your franchise if your lowest rated movie is still fresh on Rotten Tomatoes by 10%. Okay, that's not certified fresh because it's not at 75%, but still definitely a good score. When it comes to John Wick, right now, John Wick Chapter 3 has the lowest score, and it still has an 84%. Wow, that is very impressive. If you put out 4 movies and the lowest rated movie in your franchise still is certified fresh by 9%, wow, that's a good sign. Lowest rated movie, still over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. So John Wick wins this round as well, actually. Then we're going to look at the average score for each franchise. When it comes to Indiana Jones, you have an average of 80.2. When it comes to John Wick, you have an average of 89.5. John Wick again wins the round. Next, let's look at the gap between the lowest and highest score. Wow, with John Wick, pretty small gap, honestly. Only 10%, because the lowest score is 84, highest score is 94. When it comes to Indiana Jones, there's more of a gap, because the lowest score is 70, highest score is 93. Not bad, but still definitely a higher gap of 23 there. So John Wick again wins the round. So next we're going to look at my personal opinion. And for me, this is actually pretty easy. I'm going to definitely pick John Wick. Now, admittedly, is John Wick as iconic of a character as Indiana Jones? No, I wouldn't say so. I would definitely say Harrison Ford's performance as Indiana Jones is just more memorable. Indiana Jones, is the classic, iconic, quintessential adventurer. He's such an iconic character that's part of pop culture. The main Indiana Jones theme from John Williams is, safe to say, easily more memorable than any of the score in John Wick. Not that the score in John Wick is bad, but is there any piece of score you can think of from those movies that you really remember, like you remember the Indiana Jones theme? No. But on a quality level, I think it's pretty obvious John Wick is more consistent. If the worst movie in your franchise is John Wick Chapter 3, that's a really good sign, because I don't think John Wick 3 is all that bad. I don't think it's as good as the other movies, because when you look at the plot, it feels like not too much really happens in John Wick 3, not that much progress is really made. It gets a bit repetitive because the movie keeps hitting the same beat, basically. That John Wick goes to a place, we learn about some item that Wick uses to get a favor from someone that'll help him out. I think the action John Wick 3 is still great, so I wouldn't say that John Wick Chapter 3 is a bad movie. I think all the other films in the franchise are just great. When it comes to Indiana Jones, I think that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is the weakest. Dial of Destiny is not as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I don't really enjoy it much either. It really baffles me, to be honest, that Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it should be fresh at all, for several key reasons. First of all, having aliens in Indiana Jones just feels weird. It feels like we're going too far into just sci-fi territory. I don't think that's appropriate for Indiana Jones. There's at least one scene where something supernatural happens in the first 3 movies, yes, but those movies are more grounded adventure films. With the 4th film, you're going much more into sci-fi territory. And I think There's CGI in that movie that really hasn't aged well, that makes the movie come off considerably dated when you have Shia LaBeouf swinging with the monkeys, this cartoon tree smashing machine in the third act, and then you have Shia LaBeouf fighting Kate Blanchett with a sword. It comes off as cartoonish to me. It feels like a video game. Also, while Kingdom of the Crystal Skull superficially feels like Indiana Jones because of all the references, to me it feels like this movie doesn't have any teeth to it. It's lacking any of the bite that I want from Indiana Jones because the grit just isn't there anymore. Those first three movies have grit. Obviously, Temple of Doom is darker, sure, but even when you look at Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade, they have grit to them. I think that's a big thing that was missing from that fourth film. And also, I think at that point, Harrison Ford is starting to get a bit too old to be Indiana Jones. So you're losing that escapist fantasy that's always been a big part of the character. When you get to Dial of Destiny, are there good moments in the movie? Yeah, there definitely are, but I don't like the fact that Lucasfilm decided to deconstruct the character of Indiana Jones, present him as old, sad, miserable, and depressed. I don't like the new female character that's a goddaughter to Indiana Jones. She comes off as too unlikable for most of the runtime because she comes off as smug, snarky. It feels like she's talking down to Indiana Jones, which I find to be very off-putting. So that be it for this one. John Wick wins, and it won every single round.